Hi there, this video is to help with plank position, and although I'm doing it in the context of a yoga asana practice, plank position comes into pretty much any fitness class that you're ever going to do, and there is some practicality to it. So let's go over a few ways to make it feel better, right? So you can be as strong as you want in the arms. A lot of people say that it's their arms that are not strong enough and they feel weak in their arms. But what it really is that your core isn't sustaining you. It would be like having a bridge held up with a really poorly put together center, an arch, where the supports are in the ground, like in this case our hands and feet, but where the arch over would not be. I got a dog over there that's like peeking in like she wants to come in. She totally is not invited though. So if she comes in. Okay, so the first thing that we generally find in any hand support position is that we don't have really good, strong hand support. So if you take your hands a little bit wider than your shoulders, that can help too. Another way to make sure that the shoulder is relatively stable, like the arm bone is stable in the joint, is take the hands in front of the shoulder. So many times you'll hear both fitness and yoga teachers cue hands under the shoulders, and that just isn't anatomically a super stable, plugged-in position for the head of the humerus, the arm bone. So we'll start with that. So take hands in front of shoulders. That also helps minimize the angle of your wrist extension. Now, for a lot of people, wrist extension does not go above normal, and normal is about 70 degrees. Hands in front of the shoulders helps minimize this. It's about 70 degrees. Now, for those of us that are, crazy and have collagen that's extra stretchy, which is all flexibility really is. So, as an ex-gymnastics coach, we learned that pretty early on, that some kids are predisposed. Now, they're a little bit more malleable as adults. We have to be careful if we push ourselves beyond here. So I want you to go back and forth to just check and see where you feel a strain. Now, you may not be that sensitive to your body. I feel a strain right about here. I'm pushing back a little bit. Okay. The other thing to consider is if you have a carrying angle in your arms. So as you just let your arms rest, because anyone can do this, but that's not the idea. The idea is to let them come in a resting position with the palms out. You can see that I have an angle coming out from the elbow. And you'll also notice that one is not quite as severe as the other, right? So then I'll turn the palms, and I'll keep them here, and I'll take this as how wide my hand should be. So another cue that you'll often find is hands shoulder width. And this really doesn't work for more than half of the female population, and I'm finding more and more that there are more guys that are also having this carrying angle. So just check yourself out. It's super easy to find out. This will help the wrists and the elbows and the shoulders, and just in general the support structure of the underside of your arms too. So now that I've got those two things down, my wrists still hurt, let's say. Well, generally you're working on a mat of some kind, or you have mats available to you. So you can either take a rolled up thin mat or roll up the front edge of your mat and give yourself a little ramp with your hands. So you can see now I have even less of an angle here at the wrist. You're looking at this, okay? And I can get the heel of my hand in, particularly where the thumb connects. A lot of times you'll see hand support start to degrade into this outer pinky edge of hand, elbows out, and what you really want to have is a nice even support between the thumb, the outer pinky side, and the index finger knuckle, underside of the knuckle, right? Now, in this point, I can't really get the knuckle down, but it doesn't matter because my wrists, let's say, feel better, and I've got a pretty good claw. You can look down at my fingers, and there's a little bit of a claw going on there. Now, I'm exaggerating it a bit. I don't have to do this in my body, but some people do to really feel stable, supported, and not get that wrist pain. So you get to play around with this, okay? All right, now that we've got 3 potential ways to minimize the wrist pain that we might experience before we're even able to build strength. I'm going to go to my happy place, and we'll do some cat-cow here. So as you cat-cow, it's inhale, arch the spine as much as you can, comfortably. Now for me, I know that I can go deeper than this in the lumbar spine, but there's really no need to. So if you have a really curvy lumbar spine and it makes you look like you got quite a bit of booty, you might want to minimize the way you do that. And then on the exhale, what I try to do is create a little bit of space in the back of the shoulder blades. So if you want to, you can go back and forth like this. So let your cat-cow be more than just a forward-backward motion. Let it be like a side-to-side and a circular. And then from here, now we want to get into the plank position. So many people start to feel success in plank because they're able to hold themselves up, but there's no real support, and they may not know it, right? And so from here, what we want to work is the idea of getting that support. So we've worked with the idea of cat-cow, and you'll see that in the cat pose, I want to find some lifting from the pelvic region. It's not just me sucking in my belly. So if you think sucking in your belly is ab work, it's not. It's very superficial ab work for one, and it also tends to create a very closed off space in the stomach, which needs to move during breath work, believe it or not. So as you exhale, it's fine if you want to use the actual pelvic floor to help get that hugging and lifting. You don't have to squeeze super hard. We're not asking for ridiculous squeegee work here. So what I would recommend is that before you get into plank and you start outstretching even one leg, try to find the sense where the underside of your bridge, so to speak, is from the pubic bone to the xiphoid process, or the bottom tip of the sternum, has some sense of tension. Now, I could go overboard and do this, but I don't want to do that. That's not really deeper core work. Sometimes the less hard you work, the deeper you're getting and the closer to your spine and to your stabilizer muscles you're getting. So now I'm going to extend a leg. I feel still pretty supported here, and then the other. Now there's ways you can work the shoulder. This is just upper spine work. And I think it's okay to do little shoulder shrugs here, provided that the low spine doesn't change position. If you'll notice, the space near my lumbar spine is not dipping down. If yours starts to do that, then keep one leg, just do little shoulder shrugs. My elbow's still bending a little. If your elbows happen to look like mine when they're straight, and they're super bending the wrong way, you really want to have this sense of hugging the elbows in, and a little bit of a turn in the hands, similar to if you were going to open a jar of, let's say, pickles or raspberry jam, seedless, which is my favorite. Okay, so there you go. So you've got some shoulder shrugs and planks. Now when the wrists start to hurt but you still want to work your plank position, we've got the good old forearm plank. Same idea with the elbows. They don't want to be directly under the shoulder for most people. And you should still work from a low position. So if having your belly dropping down to the floor kind of gives you fits. The reason my legs are bent back here is because there's a bolster, so your legs would be pretty straight. What you would do is work to hug in, and you want to create sort of a cat-cow motion with the forearms. And then over time, if it felt good, you could press the whole of your hand and arm and elbow into the floor. Now this, just with the knees, is giving me some pretty good strength work here. You could lift your legs so you have a little less support. And this would be really good for most people, I think, to do, no matter how strong you get. And then just work on slowly. So again, we're looking for the tip of the pubic bone tends to draw up and in, and then everything up to the navel and then to the base of the rib cage lifts. Eventually I'll be able to get more into the chest and then see this depression, I should say this retraction and protraction of the shoulder blades. You kind of have options here. Some people should be more like this. I would prefer to be more neutral. Okie dokie. The last thing we're going to do is a nice way to take a halfway point to push-ups. So you can take a bolster. It's okay, not everybody owns a bolster, I get that, but you have objects that surely can substitute for a bolster. I highly recommend not using animals. You can take a couple of pillows. You can roll up, if you have another yoga mat or two, you can roll up a blanket or a couple of towels, or, you have options, I'm sure. I'm going to pull up my pants now. I do not normally wear these pants, and they like to slide down to my bum. Okay, so from here, if you're working on push-ups, whether you're on your knees or not, so get that nice angle in your hands if they need to be wider. I like to turn the hands out a little bit, okay? Not in, a little bit out. And then in this case, the elbows can come in naturally, okay? So if you have something that's coming out to your elbows, you could hug them in a little. I'm going to use my knees, and I'm going to use the cat-cow principle. So when I inhale, I use the cat pose. On the exhale, I'm lifting from the tip of the pubis through to the navel, and I'm pushing up. And then when I come down, I relax and I inhale. And then you're working with a nice halfway point. Do what you have to do for your wrists. You see how far my hands are in front. My wrists are pretty healthy, but that doesn't mean that I get to abuse them and constantly put them in places of massive extension. Okay, now you want to see this without. Now again, you want to have this nice support in the front of your body. And I'm going for less of a protraction of the shoulder blades and going a little bit more for a retraction. Come down. I'm pressing through the whole of my hand. I'm trying to get the whole palm involved. You might even claw a little bit with the finger pads, and then when you exhale, hug the elbows in just a little. You don't have to get anal about it. Draw the belly in, and then push. So never push off the floor until you have the support in the underside of your bridge or your belly. Okay. That's just one of a million ways that you can start building your strength and also taking care of your wrists and your low back for plank. Stay tuned for more because there's a lot more to come. Bye.